In this chapter of The Wanderer, I'll be diving right into Tokyo to understand the soul of the city. We'll be exploring the transportation, the structure of the city, the culture, and the food. Alright, so there's something to be said about the simplicity of Japanese engineering. So, you'll notice this is the shower head right here. If you turn the tap up, it does the shower. But if you push it down, the sink goes. So, I'm curious if I could brush my teeth while taking a shower efficiently. Now, before we get started, here's a quick look at the map of Tokyo. A lot of my time in this video will be spent in Shibuya, Akihabara, and Shinjuku. To get my bearings, whenever I'm about to explore a new city, I like to take myself out to coffee. And while enjoying a cup of coffee, I'll begin to chart out my plan. And one of the first things I wanted to do in Japan, apart from eat, of course, was to go to Akihabara for my friends back home that are super into anime. Akihabara, or Akiba, as some of the locals call it, is the hub for all things otaku. Slang for having an intense obsession with anime and manga. It was fascinating. I stumbled into this gigantic 8-story mall called Yodobashi Akiba, where you could find anything.
Store is gigantic.
It's about here that I had the realization that Tokyo's got mascots representing everything. Buses have mascots, stores have mascots, and everything's got some sort of cutesy little animal or a jingle as a call-out. It's all meant to be aesthetically pleasing. Anyway, Akiba is famous for being the anime paradise. All sorts of toys, anime paraphernalia, and a lot of animal cafes as well. Tokyo in general's actually got a lot of animal cafes. You can find cat cafes, you can find hedgehog cafes, but later in this video you'll see me going to a cat cafe, so more on that later. I did find that the language barrier was something that I had to get used to. If I could do something different retroactively, it would be to learn a lot more Japanese before going. But for the sake of this trip though, I survived off a handful of words. Sumimasen, which is similar to excuse me. Kudasai, which means please. Arigatou gozaimasu, which means thank you very much. Mizu, which means water. And hai, which means yes. Admittedly, I'd sometimes catch myself saying things in Spanish to respond. The number of times I caught myself saying gracias, not ideal. Eventually, I received a tip from an English-speaking local that if I pronounced English words in a very strong Japanese accent, that would lift a little bit of the communication barrier. I didn't really feel good about that one, out of worry that it'd be offensive, but I did try it a few times and it was well received. But one good, very reasonable alternative is Google Translate. It'll help you out a lot. So these keywords and Google Translate really helped me do a majority of the navigation in Japan. As I traveled, something I noticed was the abundance of green spaces all throughout the city. While Tokyo was this huge city, it was extremely clean and extremely, well, green. And here's a montage of the green spaces that I shot. And chasing the green, if you will, brought me to the Meiji Shrine. So, Tokyo's got a lot of green spaces built in completely throughout the city, but the Meiji Shrine is one of those examples. The Meiji Shrine is a Shinto shrine in Shibuya, Tokyo, that is dedicated to the deified spirits of Emperor Meiji and his wife, Empress Shoken. One neat thing about these shrines is that you can pull oracles or prophecies of your future, and they may tell you things you need to improve in your life, or they may issue warnings. Here's one I pulled. It's fascinating, really. The culture of respect here is consistent in every aspect of society. Things are super clean, extremely well kept, and the measure of respect goes very far, to the point where I felt behind the curve and often wondered what the heck we were doing here in the US. Another interesting thing that I found is that people dress incredibly well. It's considered respectful to be easy on the eyes and dressing well. You'll see a lot of people walking around in designer clothing and formal wear. And along with that, people follow all of the rules. No picking and choosing. You could be in a small little empty alleyway with a crosswalk light saying don't cross, and that is still a rule that you're expected to follow. And that kind of plays into the efficiency aspect of this society. When all the rules are followed, and people do respect them, you begin to make wholesale efficient improvements so as to not impede the day-to-day. And one of the most efficient things I noticed while out in Japan was the transportation. You can take the train absolutely anywhere. You can go from one side of Tokyo to the other in 30 minutes, and I definitely took advantage of that. Anyway, so after leaving the Meiji Shrine and crushing yet another bowl of ramen, I made a friend at the hostel that I was staying at, and we went to a cat cafe.
Certain things you don't really realize that you need. Today, I needed to be at a cat cafe.
That was delightful. My new acquaintances and I, later that evening, decided to indulge in izakaya, an eating style popular for staying, eating, and drinking. These are small places with small bites and big bites.
I sometimes get one to test the coffee shop's milk texture. This is what I mean. It's like coffee's a fun thing.
Because drinking black coffee just out of a tap at the US is a big thing, right? Like, you have your decaf, you have your coffee.
It just depends what you want, because like so you can enjoy like a really like
Yeah.
Particularly after work hours, the most common patrons are salarymen. White-collar workers showing immense loyalty to their company, their co-workers, and especially their bosses. It is customary for salarymen to go out to eat and drink after work with their managers and co-workers. It's the flip side of being such a respectful society, being respectful to a point where it might even be detrimental. It's really to seek the approval of your leaders and to prioritize the company and your family overall. As such, there's a phenomena where you can sometimes find these salarymen asleep on the streets as they've been out too late. The immense pressure on these salarymen to provide for their family and to be unwaveringly loyal to these companies does sometimes lead to overworking debts. There's a term for it called karoshi. Even in a very efficient society, there are drawbacks. So there are a lot of articles on this, so I won't dive into this too much more. On a more joyful note though, it was a really nice time out, and I'm very thankful for the friends I made along the way. Continuing to explore the city, I was fascinated by all the nifty ways to get around. The layout of the city is really aesthetically pleasing and cutting edge. Whatever can be automated is usually automated. Technology is often integrated with all your day-to-day processes. Anyway, getting around, nifty. Let's talk about food. One big key to understanding Japanese cuisine is understanding umami. Umami is the sensation of depth to flavors. Japanese cuisine tends to stick to simple things and deepens those flavors. A simple example. Rice is often cooked with vinegar, and it's compacted and the flavors are deepened for each grain. As such, a lot of attention and care is given to food. That being said, you're not necessarily expected to eat it in a slow and clean fashion. You see, Tokyo moves fast. When you go out somewhere to eat a meal, generally the etiquette suggests that you continue to order food and drinks, or you leave and politely allow the next customer to roll in. One example I will give here is the first night I went out in Golden Guy with my buddy. We ended up getting booted from the bar we were in because we didn't really stay to order anything. Now, I had so many different food items in Tokyo. Ramen, of course, izakaya joints with small bites, egg sandwiches, Japanese sweets with red bean paste and matcha, and a lot more. There's vending machines everywhere, but there are these apple sparkling drinks that I found that are 0 calories, but they're really good. It's like sparkling apple juice, so one of those things I actually really recommend out here. Unlike every corner is a convenience store. You can find Family Marts and 7-Elevens everywhere. And in these convenience stores, you can often find a lot of different food, like sushi, sandwiches, what have you. And they're actually really good. And another cool thing is that you can get warm coffee right out of the opposite of a refrigerator, which I guess is an incubator. It's not like going out to a gas station at a truck stop. All of these are actually really high quality foods that are pretty good. I really liked the egg sandwiches, and there's even strawberry whipped cream sandwiches. I recommend checking those out too. They're kind of weird, but I don't know, I liked them.
Alright, so I am back in my hotel room, and here I have 2 sandwiches, a thing of curry and rice, and I got a non-alcoholic beer. With that, I have a full dinner that I spent less than 1,000 yen on.
And on a quick tangent, even the coffee is adorable. When you go to Japan, try the food. Try everything. You're going to find a lot of variety. Ultimately, I found that Tokyo rewards those that just really want to get lost and immersed. I genuinely had no plan when I got here, and most days I didn't book my hotel or hostel until the day of. To some folks, that may not seem ideal, but to me, it was perfect. I didn't feel restrained, and I felt like I could go explore every part of the city I wanted to, big or small. And that eventually took me to the Shibuya Scramble Square. It is the biggest pedestrian crosswalk scramble in the world, and one of the most famous parts of Tokyo. There's usually a lot of Instagram pictures and videos filmed here, and surrounding Shibuya Square are a lot of stores, shops, and tons of food. If you're here, just explore, get lost in the alleyways, find yourself underground, and let yourself get dragged in. 2 of the most frequented sub-cities by most in Tokyo are Shibuya and Shinjuku. For the majority of my time in Tokyo, I stayed around Shinjuku. By the way, I should mention, in Chapter 1 when we went to Golden Gai, that's in Shinjuku. Shinjuku is a major commercial sector of the city, and it serves as an economic hub. It's got a lot of colors and neon, along with giant 3D cats, and Godzilla. Every corner of this city has bustling personality and remarkable beauty. Despite all that though, really take into account how serene and quiet it is. Finding quiet moments is not difficult in Tokyo. Make some friends, or travel here with some friends, and take it all in. As big of a city as Tokyo is, it can feel remarkably small and homely at times. And that's something incredibly special. In the next chapter of The Wanderer, I'll take the bullet train and head to the Nagano province and visit the Japanese Alps to do some skiing before eventually returning to Tokyo to reflect on the adventure. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to be notified when Chapter 3 is out.